1, 2, 3, 4.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here, back again to kick off our weekly Stay Tuned Sports Week shows. Talk a little MMA on Thursdays, and then this week it's looking like me and Shoulders are gonna record on Saturday instead of tomorrow night. Definitely some interesting topics to talk about for Saturday, but save that for then. But like I said, there's actually a busy week this past week, as well as last weekend too. We have retirements, we have some cross promotion, sharing of fighters, I guess if you want to call it that. Nate Diaz in the news, always being linked to Conor McGregor because of those two fights they had together. And also we have UFC pay-per-view coming up this weekend that I'll go over and give my picks to and stuff like that. But before all that, head over to Twitter. Follow me at ST Sports Podcast. Follow my personal one at Jimbo ST Sports. And also head over to bellyupsports.com. I write articles for them once, sometimes twice a week. This past week I wrote a article about Andy Ruiz Jr. upsetting Anthony Joshua, and I was able to actually tune in to watch that one because after we recorded last Saturday, excuse me, by the time I got home, I got to watch the last period of that debacle of the Blues Bruins game. Ended up losing, 7-2 or whatever, and put the boxing fight on and was able to see it. And even though it was an upset and it was a knockout, and I know Josh was getting a lot of heat for it, it was a good fight. It was a close fight, but in the end, it was probably not the biggest upset in boxing history. I mean, you still got to probably figure Buster Douglas was the biggest one, but this is definitely up there. If you head over to Belly Up, you can read my article. There was 4 biggest upsets in sports history that I wrote about and somewhat ranked them as far as where I put them in order of biggest upsets. And it's not just boxing. It was a little hockey, a little football, and a little UFC. Since I'm really into the whole UFC and bare knuckle, and never really watched Bellator, but I may start watching it, and I will get into that a little bit later on. But to kick off the show, talk about a little bit about last weekend at the Gustaffson Smith fight night, or fight afternoon, since it was on at 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it, but I saw some clips to some of the fights, and once again, it delivered. A lot of knockouts. Jimmy Manua, he retired. Just a nasty knockout. He got knocked out with a head kick, and he never gained the championship belt or whatnot, but for a while there, he was pretty good, entertaining and stuff like that. It's just the old adage says, Father Time caught up to him. I think I saw 38 or 39 years old, so it's definitely not an old man sport anymore, where you can watch Chuck Liddell back in his prime days when he was like 32, 33, and be able to still take on these young bucks. Now it's pretty much it's kind of starting to get like football in a way. Once you start hitting that 30 mark, you better do something quick, because before you know it, you're going to be on the outs. And unfortunately for him, that's what happened here, and he had a decent career in UFC and entertaining. One that I did kind of see coming, like in the back of my head, going into this, the Anthony Smith fight was Gustaffson possibly retiring. And the reasoning being is because his last fight was against John Jones last year. He really wasn't that active. And really, he's been up and down ever since the first John Jones fight, which was probably about 2-3 years ago, I would say. And I mean, that was a hell of a fight. I mean, that was probably the first fight that John Jones actually got pushed. He just did not run through Gustaffson. Yeah, he cut him up pretty good, and it was a decision win for Jones, but it was a close fight again. But he never really regained that dominant mentality type, And unfortunately, when he fought Anthony Smith, again, Anthony Smith is a tough guy too. Definitely has a lot of heart, which he's shown in his John Jones fight 2 months ago. And Anthony Smith was able to beat Alex Gustaffson with a rear naked choke in the 4th round. And how it all unfolded was when they interviewed Gustaffson, and they were over in Stockholm, which I guess in a way is kind of bittersweet that Gustaffson was able to do it in his hometown. Basically just said, you know what, the show's over, guys, and he put his gloves down on the mat, which kind of signifies a retirement for a fighter in the MMA world. And when you look at his record and everything like that, his just who he fought and stuff like that, he's 10-6 in the UFC. He was a hell of a fighter throughout his whole career till this last year or so. But he basically, did say that he wants to focus more on his family. He's got some kids now, so he wants to focus on that. Has his own gym that wants to teach at and stuff. So, I mean, it sounds like he has a decent backup plan. Definitely probably won't miss the whole getting punched in the face and getting bruised up and everything like that anymore. But, again, I want to give him a congratulations. It was a hell of a career to watch him. I definitely, even though those few months to a year that I stopped watching UFC because of the whole John Jones fiasco, I still kind of followed him in a way to see how he was doing and stuff like that. And then one other person that did retire this past weekend too was King Mo Lala. Never, unfortunately, got to see him in UFC. Got to see him fight in Strikeforce. Ended up signing in Bellator. He's known for his, eccentric type entrances and his pretty good trash talking. Even him and when him and Rampage fought at Bellator, leading up, it was a good sell for the pay-per-view. Not like Conor McGregor and Khabib with the whole, taking personal shots at each other, but he was definitely known for his power. But unfortunately for him, I read an interview, I guess it was a day or two after he retired. They asked him, why is he retiring? And Jesus, I mean, this guy's been through everything. He basically says his body just can't take it no more. He's older now. He's had 5 ACL surgeries. He has he has to get a replacement hip. He has to get a replacement elbow. Like, so much stuff he has to get surgery done on. And again, I really didn't get to see him too much. It was more of I followed his highlights. But I'll tell you what, he leaves the sport with a 21-9 record with 1 no contest. That's nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, that's one, there's not that many fighters that could be that good and be able to stick around that long to compile a 21-9 record. He was another one that they also asked him, so what's his plan for now? And he said, he'll try to get some small job on the side. but wants to spend more time with his kids and his family, and I can respect that. You know, you look at these guys like BJ Penn, who, I'm sorry, he needs to retire. He's just not what he used to be, and he's old. And you got these two guys here, Gustaffson and King Mo, knowing when it's time to retire, and for whatever reason, BJ just doesn't want to see it or accept it. So, to those guys that retired last week, congratulations on your careers. Whether you won gold, didn't win gold, but you both had successful careers, and my hats are off to you. So, like I kind of talked about before, leading into the show, about cross promotions, Bec Rawlings is returning to MMA, and she has signed with Bellator. Now she's going to compete in the flyweight division. She used to fight UFC. A little backstory on her: she used to fight in UFC. Ended up going on a 4-fight losing streak and ended up being cut. Then bare knuckle boxing came around last June, which it's their 1-year anniversary, and she fought in the first one, and she instantly became the face of the women's division for bare knuckle boxing. She right now she's sitting at 3-0 in bare knuckle boxing. She's a champ over there, and for her to come into Bellator, she's coming in with unfortunately a 7-8 record, and also did state that she's going to put her bare knuckle boxing career on hold for right now to focus on MMA. Now, I mean, we've seen Brock Lesnar come over from WWE to UFC to kind of help them out when the John Jones fiasco was going on. I think he did twice, Brock Lesnar, but we've never seen it in a sport to sport, bare knuckle boxing going to MMA. And I was wondering how long this was going to happen, because back when bare knuckle signed Artem Lobov, they did an interview with him and they asked him why he signed with them. And he said the one thing that attracted him to this was the fact that they were okay with him pursuing other sports, whether it be boxing or going to Bellator or UFC or whatnot. And I don't think UFC is very open to that. Like I think they would have to really negotiate something to say, hey, what do we get back as a kickback here? And I don't think bare knuckle's getting no kickbacks here for Bellator, especially since Becca's putting her bare knuckle boxing career on hold for right now. I think this is a win-win-win for Bec Rawlings, Bellator, and BKB. Here's a couple reasons why. Bellator, they're getting a big name. Well, not a big name like a Conor McGregor, but a well-known name. Let's say it that way. A well-known name to help build your women's division, your flyweight division. Yeah, she wasn't the greatest in UFC, but that was about 2-3 years ago. So maybe she's grown as a fighter and learned a few different tricks now. This is a win for Bec Rawlings because MMA always sounded like that was her first love. If she had to pick one, whether it was MMA or bare knuckle, I think she would pick MMA. And it's a win. Probably the biggest win would be for bare knuckle, because now you have your face of your women's division going to Bellator, which they have their own pay-per-views, they have their own shows on TV as well. So now you're having a chance to have your champion gain some fans from the Bellator world And when she does want to come back to bare knuckle boxing, maybe pull some of those fans in as well. And which, in the end, would help grow your company. And I like this. I'm actually happy that bare knuckle is allowing their fighters to do this. I don't see UFC doing it. Obviously, Bellator is okay with doing it if they're signing her to a contract. I mean, I'm sure there's some type of gentleman's handshake, behind doors that, bare knuckle might be getting a little kickback, but I definitely do like this move. And for everybody that's listened, whenever I talk about Bec Rawlings or bare knuckle, I'm a huge fan of hers. I think I love how she's on camera, and to hear her story of where she's came from the past few years with the allegations about her ex-husband being abusive and basically being a single mother raising 2 kids now, I got a lot of respect for her, and definitely going to start watching her on Bellator to see how she does over there. Like I said, taking a year or 2 off may have helped her grown as a fighter, and may have learned a few new moves that she could help, win championship belts now in Bellator. And then she'll be a two promotion champion. And like I said, speaking of Bellator, bare knuckle will be back June 22nd, which 2 weeks from now it will be on. And those fights are definitely lining up to be some good fights. Artem Lobov versus Paul Malignaggi, a little freaking chihuahua rat looking dude. I lost all respect for him, not to get off a little tangent here, but lost all respect for him when they had the press conference a week or 2 ago. Alright, he spit at Lobov. They're selling fights, whatever. But then you come out and say that if Lobov's mother was there, you would spit on her too. Like, dude, that, again, it's getting up there to the Conor and Khabib stuff. Slow it down right now. Focus on Lobov. Sell that fight. You're trying to bring fans. You're trying to make fans. Even if you want to be the villain and want to be the hated guy, you're going to turn fans off from that, I think. I may be wrong. It might even be the opposite. Might even want people to tune in so you get your ass kicked, which I think Lobov is going to just run right through him. I hope he knocks him the freak out and knocks a couple teeth out. But we also have Chris Lieben fighting. A little bit tougher test with going up against, I believe his name was Ward. And then the second biggest fight that I'm looking forward to on this pay-per-view is Johnny Bedford versus Reggie Barnett for the lightweight belt, I believe it is. This will end the tournament since it started a year ago. Both fighters very entertaining. Barnett got really quick hands, good defense. Johnny Bedford very strong. I mean, Barnett, other than his last fight, because that dude just ran like a little chicken, kind of like Forrest Griffin, or Forrest Gump. Sorry, Forrest Griffin. He's probably the favorite, but I would not put down Johnny Bedford. I may even go with Johnny Bedford, just because I think the power is gonna be the factor. Barnett, like I said, Barnett's got the defense, but I think Bedford's gonna be able to break through it and hopefully get the win. But when that gets closer, if you want to call that my first time predictions, in 2 weeks I'll give my final predictions and we'll go from there. Maybe we'll get some predictions from Shoulder. I'll definitely be live tweeting that one. I'll probably be actually too live tweeting Saturday night's pay-per-view, which, like I said, head over to Twitter, follow the show at ST Sports Podcast, and that's where I'll be live tweeting. But before all that, Mr. Nate Diaz was in the news, talking about Conor McGregor. They asked him about the Conor McGregor trilogy, and he said he's not interested in it at all. I'm not interested. I'm interested in winners. He lost his last fight, and I won my last fight. You think I'm trying to fight someone who just got his ass beat all over the place? I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. That shit wouldn't happen to me. Now, he's referring to about Conor tapping out to Khabib. The only thing that he's wrong there with is when he said that he won his last fight. Diaz actually lost his last fight, which was the McGregor fight at UFC 202, which was the rematch. He still thinks he won it. I mean, I'll be honest. I still remember it. It was a brawl and a half. It was a very close fight, and I even said that if Conor lost, I would not be upset because it was that close of a fight. Conor ended up winning by decision. And Nate Diaz hasn't fought since. Now he's supposed to be fighting Anthony Pettis at UFC 241 on August 17th. And the Diaz brothers always had a complicated relationship with UFC. Diaz went on to say, the UFC were dissing me, saying I fucking turned down fights. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? You're giving this guy the world and you're putting this guy down. That's why I haven't been fighting. Why would I work for you while you're over here playing me? He went on to say 3 years went by, and then they start expecting me to start screaming for effing Conor as soon as he loses. Nah, dude, I won that last fight. I'll fight Khabib. Then Khabib is playing like I have to win something to get to him. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? You have to win to get to me. I slapped you. I kind of agree with Nate here as far as how UFC handles the whole picking the fight situations and stuff like that. I mean, it really does kind of sound like UFC was holding out hope that Nate would come around and want to fight Conor. And now, just this past week, Khabib signed a contract to fight Dustin Poirier. I believe in September sometime. And we all kind of knew that, and we'll touch on that in a little bit here, though, too. But we all kind of knew that was the fight that was going to happen. At least I knew Conor would never get the rematch that quick. Nor do I think he should. And now with Nate fighting Pettis, and to kind of go back to last week's show with Shoulders and with the MMA show last Thursday, we talked about the top 5 guys. Justin Gaethje is number 5, doesn't have an opponent. Now Khabib is fighting Poirier, who is number 2. Conor's number 3 with no fight. And number 4 is fighting now as well. So the only fight there is there to make for Conor McGregor is Justin Gaethje. I mean, who else are you going to give him? And are you really going to let him sit around again till maybe December? Let's just say Khabib wins. That's in September. It's going to probably take 2 months off, so maybe you'd be looking at November. So you're going to let him sit a full year before Conor steps back into an octagon? I don't think that's smart. I think they need to get him and Justin Gaethje in a pay-per-view match. Give Conor what he wants. Make him the main event. And I think that would be a good fight. Obviously Conor has problems on the ground. I know Justin Gaethje has some wrestling, but he would rather stand and bang. I mean, you watch any of his fights, sometimes the coach are yelling at him to take him down to the ground. He's just not listening, But I think that would be a good fight. And as far as Nate Diaz, this should be a really good fight against Anthony Pettis. He even said that one of the reasons why he picked this fight was he's the most entertaining fighter in the sport right now. And I gotta admit, watching Pettis' past 2-3 fights, I think he is. He's kind of evolved. Like, he's not a one-trick pony now anymore. So I'm kind of looking forward to that fight. I'm not sure what other if there's any other fights on that one. But like I said, the UFC 242 is Khabib and Dustin Poirier, and I know there's a heavyweight fight on there that has title ramifications and stuff like that. So you know what? Since I'm talking about UFC 242, let's just get right into that there. But so it's Khabib versus Dustin Poirier. Obviously, Khabib is the champ. Dustin Poirier beat Max Holloway for the interim title, I believe a couple months back, about 2 months maybe. And Khabib also signed a new multi-fight deal. And here's the interesting part, and this is why I said GSP is not retired completely yet. That if GSP unretires, the first fight that happens is against Khabib for the belt. Now again, this is the 155 belt. George St. Pierre was the 170 champion. I can't see how he could get down to 155. Unless it's a catchweight fight and it's not for a title. Because, 90% of these fighters are cutting weight to get down to the limit. So they're probably always walking around 15 to 20 pounds heavier than what they got to get down to. So if he's walking around even at 185, that's 30 pounds he's got to cut to get down to fight Khabib. And I just don't see that happening. So I could see a catchweight, even Khabib going up to like a 165 type weight class. But so yeah, I forget who the heavyweights are, but they're two really big bangers. Definitely someone should get knocked out. I think it's Curtis Blades and I forget the guy he's fighting. But this weekend we have UFC 238. I call him Cujo, and I probably pronounced his name wrong. But so we're just gonna keep calling him Henry Cujo versus Marlon Moraes for the bantamweight belt. And we also have the women's flyweight championship, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai. And this card, I'm telling you guys, this card is stacked too. Because then we also have a lightweight bout between Tony Ferguson and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. A bantamweight bout between Jimmy Rivera and Petr Yan. And to kick off the card, it's a heavyweight bout, Tai Tuivasa versus Blogov Ivanov. So, just to jump right into it, I'm going to go with the heavyweight bout, Tai Tuivasa. Going with him because he drinks beer right out of a freaking shoe. Like, I'll drink anything, anywhere, most of the time, but he literally does. And, anybody that does that, man, they got to be effed up in the head. But this should be a good fight to kick it off, but I'm going to go with him. Then in the bantamweight fight, we got, like I said, Jimmy Rivera versus Petr Yan. I'm gonna go with Jimmy Rivera, just because I don't think I've seen Petr Yan fight. But then to really get this card going, it's the return of Tony Ferguson. It's been out for a few months, had some, well, I can't say off the field issues because he doesn't play on the field, but outside the octagon issues. That sounds like he has it all figured out now. Going up against Donald Cerrone. You guys know I love my Donald Cerrone. I'm hoping he pulls this all together now. I mean, it looks like it, sounds like it. He's talking the walk. Now you just got to do it. This has potential to be fight of the year, if not one of top 5 best fights ever in UFC history. Both guys are very talented. They can knock you out. They can submit you anywhere, anytime. So this really could get this card really moving to the next level. But for the pick, like I said, I'm going with Donald Cerrone. I won't be surprised if he submits him. Past couple of ones were knockouts, but I'm going with a submission win here. Then for the co-main event, we have Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai in the women's flyweight division. Pretty sure Shevchenko is a heavy favorite here. Very good boxing. But I'm going with the underdog here. For some reason, just have this gut feeling. Like, I just read the story about her on ESPN. Just to see where, what she had to go through going up and stuff like that. She has that fighter mentality. She has that won't back down, don't care who you are, how big you are mentality. And this one I can see going to a decision. And I think both fighters are going to be pretty effed up by the time all is said and done. Then for the main event, we have Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. I never liked Henry. Even when he fought TJ Dillashaw, I don't like TJ. But it's just something about him. He's just so cocky to the point that it's annoying. And so I'm going with Marlon Moraes. Well, that's who I want to win. I think if Marlon wins, that's actually going to help the bantamweight, because right now Henry's the only one that's really holding the division up, afloat, I guess if you want to call it that, because I know Uncle Dana wants to start downsizing those weight classes. But I think if Henry wins, that may give Dana more firepower to shut it down, because there's no one else out there for him to fight. And so that's my picks for this weekend's pay-per-view. Like I said, I'm definitely going to be live tweeting it. I may even try to jump on earlier to do some of the prelims. But so I think that's going to be it for this week. It was nice to be back, guys. And like I said, Saturday I'm recording with Shoulders, so you can expect an episode then with both of us talking, football, baseball. We're going to probably touch on a little bit about the whole NBA courtside thing again. Some more antics going on. But head over to Twitter, follow the show at ST Sports Podcast, follow me at Jimbo ST Sports. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google, all those. Head over to YouTube also and subscribe to us there. Say if you got a party going on or whatever, and just throw it up on the TV and all you guys can listen to us. It's an easier way for everybody to hear us. So until then, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.